Praise be to you, Yahuwah my Elohim. Praise be to your Son, Yahushua my Messiah. I come at your feet in the name of your Son. Thank you for the knowledge you pour unto me, and thank you for breaking all the shackle that was bound on my face. Yahuwah, you are the only true living God. Indeed. Thank you for your Yahusha, whom you truly love. You are Elohim, the Elohim of the Yahudim.
Shalom, family. Welcome back to The Remnant Awakens. I'm your host, Pierre Ligi, Akan by birth, Hebrew by blood, and son of Yehuda by covenant. If you've been following so far, you already know this isn't your typical podcast. This is a journey into truth, into history, into identity. It's not just about opening our eyes, but opening our hearts to the reality of who we are and who we've always been. To those joining for the first time, welcome. I invite you to listen carefully, to reflect deeply, and to question everything you think you know. Now, today's episode dives into something that shaped perceptions for centuries, a deception so ingrained that it's become part of the global norm. The white Jesus lie. And family, I can't stress this enough. This isn't about controversy for controversy's sake. This is about uncovering what was hidden and rediscovering the truth, our truth. The history they've shown us, it's incomplete. And today, we start peeling back the layers. Stick with me as we dig into the roots of this deception, breaking down how the Renaissance period played a key role in shaping these false narratives. But to begin, let's start with laying out the basics. Let's start with the basics. The Renaissance was a period in Europe, 14th to 17th century, roughly, often called a rebirth of art, culture, knowledge. But family, let's pause for a moment. What were they truly rebirthing? And rebirthing for who? You see, it's described as this great awakening, a time of enlightenment. But beneath the surface, there's another story. A story they didn't teach us in school. They sold us this narrative of progress, of human achievement. But you know, it wasn't all golden statues and paintings and grand discoveries. It was also a time when history, our history, was being erased. It's not just about paintings and sculptures popping up. No. This period also marked the beginning of a massive whitewashing campaign. A deliberate, calculated effort to reshape how the world saw itself and how they, wanted the world to see power, to see truth, to see divinity. The Renaissance wasn't just about art and science. It was about control. Control over narratives, over identity, over the image of holiness itself. They took what was ours, what was sacred, and they painted over it, literally and metaphorically. And family, we're still living in the shadow of those brushstrokes today. Now why? Why does this matter? Because the way they presented this era, it wasn't neutral, it wasn't innocent, it was an agenda. And before we go further, we got to ask ourselves, who was behind this agenda? Who did this era truly serve? So, let's talk about that image. You know the one I'm talking about. Pale skin, soft brown hair, blue eyes, the face that hangs in churches, in homes, on stained glass windows all around the world. We've been told that's Yahusha, Jesus, But family, it's not. It never was. That's Cesare Borgia. Now, who was Cesare Borgia? He was the son of Pope Alexander VI. Yes, family, a pope. During the Renaissance, his father wanted to elevate their family standing and used Cesare as the foundation for this new sanitized image. The image that Europe, and later the world, would come to accept as holy. Think about it. This was a calculated move, not some random coincidence. They cast a politician, a military leader of all people, to embody what they wanted us to view as the Messiah. And family, they didn't just do this through art. They carefully crafted this image to redefine spirituality itself. This face, this false image, it's not neutral. It's not harmless. It represents centuries of domination, of control, of erasure. It distorted the way entire generations understood divinity, power, and identity, our identity. But why Cesare? Why now, at that time in history? There's a reason. And it isn't flattering for those who orchestrated it. There wasn't just an innocent artistic choice. This lie was weaponized, family. It was used to uphold systems of oppression, enslaving both body and mind. You see, when they replaced our Yahusha, when they replaced him with this pale, sanitized figure, it wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about reprogramming. They altered the perception of holiness itself. Think about it. When you control the image of what's divine, you control the narrative of power, of morality, of worth, and family. That's exactly what happened. This image became the centerpiece of an agenda, a framework to justify colonialism, slavery, and global domination. Those who created it knew exactly what they were doing. It wasn't just about evangelism or converting the lost. No. This was never about salvation. This was about subjugation. Anyone who didn't resemble this newly crafted, false, holy image was deemed ungodly, less than, unworthy of mercy, of respect, of life itself. And if Yahusha looked like them, well, they must be chosen. Right? The consequences were massive. With this lie came the justification for some of the greatest atrocities in human history. The transatlantic slave trade, colonial occupation, cultural genocide, they were all wrapped up in this false holiness, this corrupted spirituality, and it was relentless. Family, this wasn't just a moment in history. This was a calculated, ongoing effort to erase us, to keep us asleep, disconnected from our Creator and from ourselves. And we cannot afford to ignore that any longer. Let me ask you something. What does the second commandment say? It says, "You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth." Family, let that sink in for a moment. Not just the words, but the weight of them. Now, why did Elohim command this? Why was it so important? Because an image, an idol, it does more than misrepresent. It distorts, it diverts, it enslaves the mind and the spirit. When we bow to something false, we're not just breaking a commandment, we're breaking connection. Connection with Yah, with truth, with ourselves. And look around. Hasn't this very commandment been shattered over and over again? They carved images. They painted faces. They created entire systems, built on lies, all disguised as holy. They told us to worship this image, to see this as divine. But family, let's be clear. Let's be real. That image they gave us, it's a counterfeit. It's not Yahusha. It's something they made for their own agenda. The power they seized wasn't just political or military. No, It was spiritual. By breaking the second commandment, by violating this divine boundary, they imposed their version of divinity on the world. They replaced the lion with a lamb of their own creation, a defenseless, pale imitation. And family, that was never Yah's plan for us. When we see this false image, when generations bow before it without question, do you think it's just a picture on a wall? No. It's a tool to separate us from Elohim's truth. And the day we trade his commandments for the lies of man, we lose, and they win. They win control over identity, purpose, destiny. And the remnant fell asleep. But now the awakening has begun. Family, can you feel it? The lies, they're crumbling. What they built on falsehoods, what they painted with deception, it can't stand forever. The remnant is rising, and the time to sleep is over. The image of the beast, the image they propped up to control and consume, it's being exposed for what it really is, a counterfeit, a shadow of the truth. And let me tell you something powerful, something the world wants you to forget. You are made, crafted, designed in the image of Elohim himself. And that image, it's not one of weakness. It's not one of chains or submission. It's power, authority, sovereignty. That's who our Creator intended us to be. So we gotta ask ourselves, family, why did they go to such lengths to erase that image, to redefine it, to turn the Lion of Yehuda into a lamb that posed no threat? Because they knew the truth. Yahusha, our Messiah, he's not just a savior. He's a warrior king, a lion, and lions, they don't bow to wolves or serpents. Yahusha wasn't what they wanted. Don't you see? He wasn't the sanitized, whitewashed figure of their colonized narrative. That version, that image of pale skin and soft hair, it was never him. Yahusha is a roaring, commanding force. He's not their creation, he's the Creator's. The restoration has begun, family. The lies, they can't hold us forever. And now it's up to you to see past the facade, to return to the truth of Yah's design. You are his child, not their pawn, not their... So now that you know, family, what will you do with this truth? Will you still bow to a lie? Or will you rise and return to the real king, the brown-skinned Hebrew Messiah, named Yahusha, the one who died for the covenant, and the one who he is coming back with fire in his eyes. You've been fed religion, systems, images, but family, now it's about restoration. It's about coming back to what was lost. Remember this. You are not just anybody. You are chosen, set apart, made in the image of Elohim. And that truth, it can't be erased, no matter how hard they try, no matter how many pictures they paint. They can't undo who Yah created us to be. So, stay awake, stay bold, stay set apart. Remember that the remnant rises when others fall asleep. And as always, walk in truth, family. Walk in who you are. I'm Pierre Lidji, and this has been The Remnant Awakens. Thank you for being here, for listening, for seeking. And on that note, Shalom. See you on the next episode.
Praise be to you, Yahuwah my Elohim. Praise be to your Son, Yahushua my Messiah. I come at your feet in the name of your Son. Thank you for the knowledge you pour onto me, and thank you for breaking out the shackle that was bound on my face. Yahuwah, you are the only true living God. Thank you for your Yahusha, whom you truly love.